Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 8th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 8, Results. The week following the entrance exam was long and stressful. Very stressful. Whilst Nito said he got around 50 points thanks to copying some very powerful quirks, Hitoshi and Izumi didn't get as many, somewhere between 20 and 30 for both of them. It got difficult to tell how many robots they destroyed. Nito tried his best to reassure them, but when Hitoshi said that he overheard people say how many points they had and that most of them were in the 40-50 range, the two didn't have high hopes that they had passed. It wasn't all bad news. Even if they didn't get into the hero course from the start, they could still get in through the sports festival. They just needed to prove themselves. But they would have to wait for their results to arrive before planning for that possible outcome. At least if that did happen, they would have someone on the hero course to help them. Another thing that worried her was that All Might hadn't gotten in touch with her since the exam. All of her calls had gone to voicemail, and he hadn't replied to any of her texts. She started worrying, fearing that something must have happened to All Might. She had given Sir Night-Eye a call about it, and whilst he said All Might was fine, he was busy with something. What that something was, he refused to say, but the lack of contact with him was worrying. Isa's death didn't help either. With him gone, Izumi had no one to talk to about her problems. Durandal helped as best he could, but he lacked Isa's experience. Knowledge is useless without the experience to use it. It didn't help that none of the other therapists they contacted was interested in helping her. But, despite her several sources of worry, the current school year wasn't over yet. So she was mainly focused on schoolwork for that week. Up until 7 days had passed since the exam. Izumi was sitting in her room finishing her homework for the week while chatting to Hitoshi and Nito over Discord, with Durandal sitting beside her. She had wanted to add Achiko to their group chat, but she didn't know her Discord ID and was worried about asking for it. Not that she hadn't been keeping in contact with her. She had her phone number, and have been texting each other from time to time. "You think we'll get our results soon?" Hitoshi's voice asked over the call. "This waiting is killing me." "They have over 1,000 students to grade," Nito replied. "It'll take time to grade everyone after all. I'm just hoping that we all get in. Even if we only get into general studies, we still have a chance to get onto the hero course." "Well, I guess Izumi and I will have to get in through the sports festival," Hitoshi said, sounding depressed. "We weren't able to get many points. Me because my quirk was useless against robots and Izumi due to being inexperienced with using her quirk. That, and people kept beating me to the robots," Izumi added. "Even with me wearing Durandal, there were a lot of people who were faster than me. Not helped by that being the first time I ever had to fight in armored wolf mode. Still, I'm not sure we were being judged just on the villain points." "What do you mean by that?" Nito asked. UA's a hero school, the best hero school in Japan," Izumi said. "Heroes don't always have to stop villains. They have to save people as well. It's only a hunch, but there may be other criteria we were being judged on but weren't told about. Why would they only score us on fighting people when that's just one part of being a hero?" There was silence from her two friends. Izumi herself was also silent. She was grateful for all the observation training Sir Night-Eye had given her, as she probably wouldn't have thought about there being other criteria. "Well, now that you mention it, that kind of makes sense," Nito said. "There is more to hero work than fighting people. Rescue and support heroes do exist, after all. It doesn't make sense to judge us on our combat ability alone, so maybe they'll also judge us on any heroic actions we perform. So, there's still a chance of us getting in," Hitoshi said, sounding a bit relieved. "Knowing that, there are probably ways to lose points as well. Probably for unheroic behavior. I remember seeing someone push another student into a robot's attack. Even if they didn't have that kind of criteria, he would have lost points for that or get disqualified." "Sounds like Izumi's analytical skills are rubbing off on you," Durandal remarked on the voice call. Considering how my quirk works, I have to be observant of my surroundings and the people I'm up against, Hitoshi said. Knowing who to attack and who to brainwash can be the difference between life and death. Same here, although in my case, it's more along the lines of what their quirks are and if I can use them, Nito added. We have to rely on knowledge and information more than most people. Knowing what quirks people have and what they can do with them will be an important part of my strategies. Shame I can't copy Izumi's quirk. It'll be nice to be able to one-punch a giant robot. I wouldn't recommend it, Izumi said. I did break my arm and both of my legs doing that. She was relieved that the two still wanted to be friends with her when she told them she had a quirk now. A part of her was worried that they would abandon her after revealing it, but they were completely fine with it. Happy even. Yeah, it's probably a good thing it's a stockpile quirk if you've got that kind of power stored inside you, Nito said. How did you end up with that much power stored up inside of you anyway? No idea, Izumi replied. My quirk registration is still in progress. Power stockpile is already on the system, but until I get my new ID showing that I have a quirk, I can't get quirk counseling. They're rather iffy about that sort of thing. Figures, Hitoshi said with an annoyed sigh before there was a sound of a door knocking. Hold one, he said before he walked off. I wonder what that was Nito said before a muffled voice was calling from him. Down in a minute, mother. Sounds like I'm needed, he said before he walked off. Izumi blinked, wondering why her two friends had been called away. Suddenly she got her answer when she heard her mother calling her name. Quickly taking her All Might headphones off, she and Durandal rushed out of her room and into the living room. What is it, mother? Inko had an ecstatic look on her face, holding a letter in her hands. A letter, Izumi. They came, Izumi, look. You got a letter. They're here. Your test results from UA. She said happily. Izumi's eyes widened in surprise as she looked at the letter. It was indeed from UA. She slowly took the letter from her mother and looked at it. Without thinking, she tore a side of it off, and a silver disc dropped out of it onto the table beside them. Moments later, a holographic projection of All Might appeared above the disc. Booyah! I am here as a projection now. He said loudly, smiling as he always did. I know it's been a while, but with great power comes a great amount of paperwork. My apologies, young lady. The truth is, I didn't come to this city just to fight villains. You're looking at the newest UA faculty member. What? Izumi gasped with a smile. All Might was going to be a teacher at UA. That was fantastic. He probably wouldn't be a homeroom teacher due to his time limit, but still, it was amazing. Let's hope he gives the students better advice than clench your butt cheeks and yell smash, Durandal remarked, which got a laugh out of Inko. The projection of All Might suddenly turned as a hand appeared in the corner. HM? Yes, what's the matter? Who's showboating? Oh, sorry, I'll wrap it up, but I have to show her something first. Wait, I need to do how many of these things? That got a giggle out of her. Right, so, moving on. Even though you passed the written test, you only got 29 combat points. Which unfortunately is not enough to get into the hero course. I'm sorry. Izumi frowned. It wasn't enough. All that hard work, and she failed to get onto the hero course. But don't worry, for there were other factors. All Might said. You have a quirk now, yes, but it's your actions that inspire others. And that's why I am here. You see, the practical exam was not graded on combat alone. He said before the projection shifted to a montage of her during the exam, a montage of her saving people. Pushing them out of the way of an incoming attack, destroying a robot that was about to attack someone, carrying that girl to safety, and ending with her punching the zero-pointer/Titan. How could a hero course reject someone who was committed to saving others, no matter the consequences to herself? He asked rhetorically before continuing, after all, that is what makes a hero. And that's what my alma mater is all about, training those who would risk their lives for the greater good. So we have rescue points. A panel of judges watches, and they award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. The projection then changed to show a scoreboard showing the top 5 participants. And right there, at the top of the list, was her name. Izumi Midoriya, 29 combat points, and 80 rescue points, for a total of 109 points. Unsurprisingly, Katsuki was below her in second place with 70 combat points and 10 rescue points. Wait, how did Katsuki get rescue points? Izumi wondered. Last she knew, he wasn't the kind of person who would go out of his way to help people. He probably got them by accident. She then saw another name she recognized, Achiko Uraraka, in fourth place. She got in, too, she thought with a smile. All Might once more moved back into frame. Congratulations, you have passed the exam, he said before he stretched out his hand. Welcome, Izumi Midoriya. You have made it. You're now a part of the Hero Academia. Tears started to form around Izumi and Inko's eyes. This was it, her dream was coming true. She was finally going to become a hero. I'm so proud of you, Izumi, Inko said proudly as she hugged Izumi, her daughter returning the hug, tears gushing out of both of them. Even after everything that has happened, you're finally going to achieve your dream. You're going to become a hero. Izumi smiled as the two continued to hug, still crying happy tears. She could scarcely believe she had made it into UA's hero course. But she had made it. She had taken her first step to becoming a hero. Ladies, I know you're happy, but we're going to get complaints again, Durandal said after a while, not wanting the neighbors to come round again to complain about the leaks but giving the two time to be happy about this. This was a big thing, after all, and he did not want to ruin it for her. The flood of tears quickly subsided as the two calmed down and broke off the hug with smiles on their faces. I am so proud of you, Izumi. And I'm sure your father will be proud of you as well. Izumi smiled. Just like her father, she was on her way to achieving her dream. She couldn't wait to tell him the good news. Speaking of telling people, Hitoshi and Nito probably also received their results. She'd need to tell them the good news. Inko also had the same idea. You should go tell your friends the good news. I'll go get dinner ready. Izumi nodded before she and Durandal rushed back to her room and put her headphones back on. Guys, my UA exam results arrived, she said happily. Figured that was the case since we got ours as well, Hitoshi said, sounding excited for once. Yep, Izumi said, vibrating with excitement. I got in. I got onto the hero course. Yes. Nito said happily, 3 for 3. We're all on the hero course. I couldn't be happier. You two made it in as well. Izumi said with a smile. Indeed we did, Hitoshi said. Those hero points came in clutch. I got 30-50 place, he said before a muffled voice shouted, fuck you, Mom and Dad, I'm becoming a hero. Before a second voice scolded the first. Who was that? Nito asked, sounding curious. Oh, that was Himiko, another resident of Kuzuki House. She's also applied to UA's hero course, Hitoshi replied. Sounds like she made it in as well. Well, I can't wait to meet her, Izumi said. Although, why did she say, fuck you, Mom and Dad? Okay, which one of you taught the cinnamon roll that? Durandal asked, ignoring the fact that he had sworn quite a lot around her. Hitoshi decided to ignore Durandal's question. Himiko doesn't like her parents. In fact, she hates them, so much so she refuses to use her family name. I won't say any more due to how bad things got for her. She's had it rough. Izumi nodded, knowing that this was a sensitive subject and that she shouldn't dig into it without the girl's permission. Wait, why does that name sound familiar? So, any idea what class we're all in? Nito asked. No idea. There was nothing about which class we'll be in on the letters, just congratulations for making it into the hero course and a list of things we will need, Hitoshi replied. Guess they're still sorting that part out. Well, there are 2 hero course classes, Class A and B, Izumi said, so there's a 50-50 chance that we'll be in either class. But, no matter what happens, even if we end up in different classes, we'll still be friends, right? Of course, we will, Nito replied. We all worked hard to get here after all, and I'm not the kind of person who abandons their friends after spending so much time helping each other. Had that happened to me a few years ago, and trust me, it is not a pleasant experience. At least you had friends, even if it was for a while, Hitoshi said. And the people I live with don't count. I'm friends with them, yes, but before I met you two, they were the only friends I had. In fact, they're more like family to me. Same here. Before I met you two, it was just my mother and I, Izumi said. I'm glad to have met you too, and that we're all on the hero course. Don't worry about it, Nito said. From today onwards, all three of us are heroes in training. Don't forget about me. A cheerful female voice added on Hitoshi's end. Gah! Hitoshi gasped. Himiko. Knock next time, please. You're too quiet for your own good. Sorry, but I wanted to see if you got in as well, Himiko's voice said. Sounds like you did. So, who are you chatting to? Just some friends from school, Hitoshi replied. Now, please, go mess with someone else. Oh, but Hooky and Irina are out with friends, Tsubaki is no fun to tease, Han and Red are asleep, Naofumi is out with his Tanuki girlfriend, Hataru is still getting settled in, and the less said about Issei the better, Himiko said, sounding annoyed. Honestly, I'm glad UA is a boarding school, and he isn't attending, because I do not want to be around that pervert anymore. Well, thank fuck for that, Durandal remarked, not wanting a pervert to be anywhere near Izumi. Besides, Himiko continued, since we're both attending UA now, we'll be hanging out a lot more, she said. Izumi could feel the smug grin the other girl was making from across the voice call. Hitoshi let out a tired sigh. And this is my life, having to live with the madness of a care home. And now you have to live with the madness of a dorm full of hero course students, Nito added, probably with a smirk. Fun, Hitoshi said with a sigh. You know, we've never been around Statfeld House before, Nito said. You've been around our homes several times, but we've never been around yours. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not exactly comfortable inviting others here, Hitoshi said. Plus, I don't want to give Issei another girl to gawp at. Everyone else is fine, I'm sure you'll like them, especially you, Izumi. They have interesting quirks, save for Issei. His does not deserve even to be mentioned in one of your quirk analysis books. That bad, huh? Izumi remarked. Whilst this did nothing to make her any less interested in this guy's quirk, something told her that it was in her best interests never to meet this guy. Well, I would like to meet them at some point. Well, I'll see what I can do, Hitoshi said. Probably won't be anytime soon, though. We recently had a new arrival, and we're giving her time to settle in. Understandable, Izumi said. Moving to a care home and living with strangers can't be easy. Suddenly Izumi's phone started ringing. One quick check revealed it to be from Achiko. I'll just be a minute, she said before removing her headphones and answering the phone. Hi, Achiko, did you get your results from UA? Yes. And I got in. Achiko replied happily, I can't believe it, I'm going to become a hero. Izumi smiled, glad all three of her friends were going to UA, on the hero course no less. That's great, Achiko. I may have already known you had gotten in due to your name appearing on the scoreboard, she said nervously. That's okay. I saw your name up there as well, Achiko said happily. You got first place, Izumi. That's great. If anyone deserves the top spot, it's you. You helped many people during the exam and saved me from that robot. I wasn't lying when I said you deserved to be on the course. Izumi was struggling to believe what she was hearing. She was not expecting such high praise from Achiko, or from anyone for that matter. She didn't do much during the exam. She helped people because it was the right thing to do. She never expected to do so well and have people thank her for helping them. Tears started to form around her eyes. Thank you, Achiko. I'm just so glad that we're all going to be on the hero course, she said happily. Achiko smiled on the other end. You're welcome, she said. I still can't believe I'm going to UA. It's amazing. We're going to become the best heroes in the world. Izumi smiled. Yes, we are, she said. She was so happy that all her friends had made it onto the hero course. Now she was hoping that they would all be in the same class. But she was worried about something. The teachers at UA may be pro heroes, but she hoped that she wouldn't have a teacher who was like all the other teachers who taught her. The ones who disregarded her and were generally untrustworthy. She hoped that her homeroom teacher at UA was a lot nicer than her previous ones. UA campus. Nizu had gathered the staff of UA to help discuss the makeup of this year's classes, mainly the hero course classes 1A and 1B. Most of the teachers were in attendance. He usually wouldn't have so many teachers assisting him with this, mainly the homeroom teachers of 1A and 1B. But this year was a bit different, owing to the mental state of a few of their new students. With one, in particular, being the main focus of their worry, as well as her mechanical companion. So, we're all in agreement that it'll be a bad idea to have me as Izumi Midoriya's homeroom teacher, Shoyuta Aizawa, aka Eraserhead, said calmly. Nizu nodded. Unfortunately, due to her history of teachers neglecting her and allowing her fellow students to bully her, having someone like you as her homeroom teacher might do more damage than good. Even though I know you would never allow anything like that to happen, your teaching style may prove detrimental to her mental well-being. The fear of being expelled on the first day, for instance, might not have the intended effect on her, not to mention your attitude may remind her of her previous teachers. Poor girl, Namuri Kayama, aka Midnight, said with a frown. I dread to think what could have happened to her to cause her to try and take her own life. She had such a promising future ahead of her. Shoyuta nodded. They were all aware of what happened to Izumi Midoriya. As teachers, they had to be aware of any problems, physical and mental, their students had. Ryo Inui, aka Hound Dog, had informed them of all the new students who were currently undergoing therapy and given them a rundown of their problems so they could best accommodate them, having been given their files from the therapists who had been helping them. And according to the files provided to them by Isa Tsuneo before his death, Izumi had been through hell. Shoyuta may have a reputation for expelling students, but it was for their own good. He refused to allow students to graduate, only to see them in an obituary a few weeks later. If they don't take this course seriously, then they don't deserve to be heroes. Besides, most of the students he expels get re-enrolled anyway, the scare helping them perform better. But he feared such a thing would have the opposite effect on Izumi. She had already tried to end her life once, twice if you count the sludge villain incident, and an expulsion, even if it was to scare her, could end up pushing her to try again. I won't take her in 1B then. That would be for the best, Ryo said. I also recommend that we put Katsuki into a different class to Izumi. Despite showing signs of major improvements since the incident, I think it's a bad idea to have them in the same class. I concur, Nizu said. Having the two share a class and dorm might prove detrimental to them both. We should not force them together. Instead, we must let them move at their own pace, and, if they wish to reconnect, it must be by their own volition. Fine, I'll take Katsuki, Shoyuta said with a sigh. Kana, that means you'll be looking after Izumi in 1A, he said as he turned towards the woman sitting opposite him. The dark blue and pink-haired woman before him smiled, fidgeting with a loose strand of her hair and slowly molding it into a bullet. Fine by me. Poor girl needs a nice teacher for a change. No offense Shoyuta, you're a great teacher, just not the kind she needs right now, Kane Tsutsumi, aka the pro hero and ex-HPSC operative, Lady Nagant, said calmly. None taken. She needs a teacher she can trust, Shoyuta said. It was for the best, after all. If circumstances were better, he would have taken Izumi in 1B without question, but that wasn't the best idea with her current mental state. It's like he said, she needed a teacher she could trust, and his logical ruses would no doubt harm her trust in him. Kana nodded before she picked up a file. I'll also like her to attend quirk counseling because her body is not used to using her quirk. With what happened to her during the entrance exam and All Might telling us she only gained access to her quirk recently, she needs help understanding how her quirk works. She's behind everyone else by almost a decade and is going to struggle to catch up. That's probably for the best, All Might said in his emaciated form. He had already told them all that he had been training her for the past 10 months so that she could access her quirk. There was no point hiding it since she needed all the help she could get. Only Nizu, Recovery Girl, and one other knew the truth that Izumi was his successor and now had one for all. So, now that that's sorted out, what do we do about Izumi's emotional support robot Durandal and his quirk emulator? Ken Ishiyama, aka Cementos, asked, the machine made by Paxton. All Might frowned. He had also informed the staff who had made Durandal and what he could do, but only once Izumi had been confirmed to attend UA. The quirk emulator was the hardest thing to explain and his scariest feature. Well, his cover story has already been sorted out, Nizu replied with a smile. All we need to do is keep an eye on him, tell him not to use the emulator, and keep a list of what quirks he has copied. Speaking of which, Recovery Girl, why exactly did you allow him to copy your quirk? All eyes slowly turned towards Recovery Girl, sitting peacefully next to Nizu. You know full well why I allow that robot to copy my quirk. As scary as it is that Paxton was able to develop a robot that could emulate a person's quirk, you cannot deny how useful such an ability would be, she said. I won't be around forever, you know. One day I will die, either due to old age or at the hands of a villain. This way, even when I die, my quirk will still be available to help people. Besides, she looked like she needed it. Having a robot that can heal people will be quite useful. I'll have to tell her not to rely too much on it. If she keeps breaking herself as she did during the exam, then she could end up causing permanent damage to her body that not even my quirk can fix. Shoyuta sighed. At least we have a rough idea of what quirks he can emulate, he said. You're sure it's wise to allow such a dangerous weapon to walk the halls of UA? Quite sure, Nizu said with a smile. We will be able to watch him at all times whilst Izumi is here, and if he does end up causing trouble, I'm sure that we can deal with it. Yep, no doubt about that, Higuri Maijima, aka Powerloader, said with a slight smirk. He'd destroyed dozens of Paxton's robots before. He could deal with this one just as easily. Still, a robot capable of emulating quirks. How the hell did that madman manage to do that? How do you even emulate a quirk? I don't know, and I hope never to know. Nizu replied, the existence of this emulator must be kept secret. Apart from the Midoriya family, no one outside of this room must know about the existence of this device. Agreed, Kana said as she pocketed the bullet she had made. If the HPSC found out about the device, they'll do anything to get their hands on it. Probably get Raft involved, the eugenics-loving bastards. You'd think the HPSC would try to dissociate themselves from such an organization, Namuri remarked with a snarl. But considering how much power they had to give up after Paxton's war, I'm not surprised they'll try anything to claw their way back up to where they once were. I'm just glad that madman wasn't able to perfect such a device, Ectoplasm remarked. I dread to think the kind of damage he could do with an army of robots that can emulate people's quirks. It'll be the MLA uprising all over again, Hisashi Yamada, aka Present Mike, said with a frown. Just with an endless army of robots instead of people. Yes. Such a shame a brilliant man like him used his cough talents for evil, a woman with a kitsune mutation with brown hair, several tails, and fox ears said, coughing into her hand, not that it did much due to the black fox mask she wore. He could have done so much good with such machines. Cough, she said, folding her arms on top of her traditional black kimono dress with red highlights before descending into a coughing fit. Are you okay there, Kanto? Kana asked, sounding worried, rubbing her fellow teacher's back. Kanto Aizu, aka Blossom, turned her head and smiled behind her mask. Don't worry about frail old me, I'll be fine. Right, Kana said, glancing at Kanto. She wouldn't call her old, frail maybe, but not old. She looked like she was in her late 20s, for crying out loud, and easily had the largest bust in the room, rivaling that of Midnight and Lady Nagant. The jury's still out on which of the two had the second largest bust. Well, we can only be glad that the man is dead, Nizu said with a giant smile that unnerved everyone in the room, save for Recovery Girl and Blossom. All we can do for now is keep an eye on Durandal. Speaking of keeping an eye on things, Eraserhead, when were you going to inform us that you were personally training Hitoshi Shinso? Shoyuta chalked. How the hell did the rat find that out? He did everything he could to keep that a secret. He initially didn't intend to train the young boy to use his capture weapon, just gently nudging him in the right direction. Things just escalated a bit. May have gotten a bit carried away as well. The boy had a powerful quirk. He just wasn't prepared for the entrance exam. It was surprising that the boy managed to get onto the hero course in the first place. Of course, to avoid favoritism, he couldn't take him in 1B, even though there was no way he would do that anyway. Still, how the hell did the rat find out? Seriously, you too? Kana said, sounding annoyed. First, it's All Might personally training Izumi, and now you're personally training Hitoshi. Who else here has been training one of the hero course students before they got onto the course? Well, Sekijiro-ken, aka Vlad King, replied nervously, I'd say you, but training your eldest daughter is completely different to training a stranger, plus she didn't apply for the hero course. Still, I didn't think you were the kind of person who would take a personal interest in teaching someone privately, Shoyuta? I'm not, Shoyuta replied calmly. He was practicing using a mock version of my capture weapon badly. All I did was train him enough so that he didn't accidentally strangle himself with it. I stopped teaching him after that, saying he needed to get into UA's hero course if he wanted to learn more. You'll be surprised how many times that almost happened to me, he explained before he shifted his gaze towards Nizu. May I ask how you found out about it? Nizu laughed. Come now, Shoyuta. You, of all people, should know this by now. I know everything. He said with an unnerving smile, which scared everyone in the room, with only Recovery Girl and Blossom being the only ones not affected. Even All Might was unnerved by Nizu's smile, and he fought all for one. The symbol of evil. To be fair, on the principle of unusual size, he was experimented on by Paxton, who had quite the reputation for breaking people. So it's understandable that he's a bit unhinged. For that, Nizu added with a smirk, no skipping this year's orientation for Class 1B. Should his head hit the table. He hated orientation, especially when it was mandatory. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 9. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.